Vayishma Yisro Choin Midyan Chulu, and Yisro, the priest of Midian, heard, Hine Tzarich Lahav in Mashe Kasuv, Es Kol Asher Asa Elokim LeMoshe Yisrael. We need to understand what it's written. Everything that Elokim did to Moshe and Yisrael, Achar Kach Amar Ki Hotzi Hashem. And then it says that Hashem took out. V'lama b'tchila Amar Shem Elokim v'achar kach Shem Havaya. Why does it first have the name Elokim and only afterwards the name of Havaya? Gam lahavin ma shekazov b'zohar reish parsha zu shal yidei shehoda Yisro v'amar ata yadati, that through that Yisro admitted and said, now I know, ki gadol Hashem, that Hashem is great, kedein stalak v'syakar kuchabrichu. Then Hashem was greatened, and the Holy One, blessed be He, His honor was honored b'yikarei law, with a great honor, with a supernal honor, v'tata, and a lower honor, l'vasar yayiv v'raisachulu, and after that the Torah was given. Ayin sham barichus. Look over there at length about this. That at first glance, it's a wonder, what does it matter so much that Yisro acknowledged? Are they greater than the 600,000 great people in Israel in generation of knowledge, that they've already acknowledged and sang song to Hashem? Why, before the giving of the Torah, did you also have to have Yisro acknowledge? Now it says, and I saw that there was a greatness to wisdom over foolishness, like the greatness of light over darkness. And it asks in Zohar Parshas Tazria, "My amavra isi ani." Why does Shlomo HaMelech say, and I saw, I did? Why does it say everybody knows that there's a greatness to wisdom over foolishness? Why does Shlomo HaMelech have to say that it was something that I saw? Ayin Sham, look in the Zohar over there, it talks about this question. We can understand this according to what it says in another place. In the Mamar Hamagbi Dehineksiv Kiner Mitzvah V'Torah, or that it says that the candle is a mitzvah and the Torah is light. Shehim Shila Kasuv Mitzvah L'Ne'er V'Torah L'Or, that the Torah compares a mitzvah to a candle and Torah to light. V'Kemoshe with Gam Kain O Te'or Kesalma, like it says also that Hashem surrounds Himself with light like a garment, and it says that the candle of Hashem is the soul of man, that the neshama is compared to a candle. And the concept is that you should love with all of your soul, with all of your hearts, with your two yetzers, b'yetzer tov or b'yetzer hara, with your good inclination and your bad inclination. Because in everyone there are two souls, a nefesh elokis v'nefesh habahamis. There's a godly soul and an animalistic soul. And each one of these souls is divided into two ideas, into two concepts. There's the intellect and the emotions. Now the godly soul, the divine soul, is and a soul that understands the greatness of Hashem in the intellectual part of it. And the emotions are love and fear of Hashem, that are born from this understanding and what this soul grasps. So that's the emotions are called the good Yetzer. So that's why it's called a Yetzer, because the emotional attributes correspond with the world of Yetzirah. Therefore, the emotions that come from the godly soul, they're the inclination that are called Yetzirah, the Yetzer Tov. The intellectual part of the soul is from the world of Bria, and these two ideas are Neshama, which is Seichel, and Ruach, which is emotions. Like we say in the morning about our Neshama, that you created it from Bria and you formed it from Yetzirah. So to the animalistic soul of a person, Ikara, who Nefesh HaSichlios, its main concept is the intellectual soul, but what's it understanding? It's understanding mainly the physicality of this world, and its coarseness, which is this opposite this, the opposite of the holy intellect of the godly soul. And the emotions that are born from the intellect, the physical intellect of the animalistic soul, those are what are called the Yetzer Hara, the bad inclination. And a person needs to control them and bend them, that a person should not conduct themselves according to the emotions that are born from the physical intellect, but a person should love Hashem with all of your hearts. Then how does one do this? By strengthening the divine soul, that understands and contemplates the infinite may be blessed. In the first parsha of Shema, when you hear O Israel and so forth, and when a person delves their intellect and their thought into this, then the enlivening soul will be nullified from its grasp, from its understanding in the physical, by the divine soul overcoming it, that the divine soul is understanding and contemplating on the greatness of the infinite, of the infinite, may be blessed. And then also the emotions that are born from the animalistic soul, that are called the bad inclination, they will also be drawn after the divine, the intellect of the divine soul, and you'll have, and you should love with both of your Yetzers, and this is the concept of the candle of Hashem, is the soul of man, Shaner, who Shekaroi al Shem Hapsila, and that the candle is called by name of the wick, Shehu Ikar Haner, Shebane Chaza, or that's the main concept of the candle, that's where the light grabs onto, that's where the light is held. And this is the divine soul, Shebane Chaza, or that's where the light is grabbing onto, which is the idea of a revelation of the divine in the wisdom of the soul. And also love is called light, so the love also in the divine soul is grasped by the divine soul. So, like it says, that Elohim saw that the light was good, that is good and kindness, which is also love. That Hashem saw that love was good and kindness was good. And through this love, a spirit awakens a spirit and draws down a spirit. A wind awakens a wind and draws down a wind. A revelation of the infinite light, may be blessed, into the soul. Meaning to say that the love is also a revelation of light into the soul. But nonetheless, there's no candle without oil. And if it wasn't for the oil, it would burn really quickly. It's only that because the oil is running up the wick, not into the flame, or you have the great amount of light, and that's the idea of the changing the intellect and the emotions of the animalistic soul, when they're drawn after the divine soul. So the wick then is the divine soul, and the oil that's being changed is the changing of the animalistic soul. And this is the greatness of the light from the darkness, that the light of the divine soul, Mekabel Yisron Gadol, means HaChoshech Dehainu Nefesh Bahamis, that it receives this from the darkness, a greatness of light from the darkness, that is from the animalistic soul. Shekasher hi nefeches leor, that when the animalistic soul is changed to light, the light becomes greater, infinitely, as it is on its own, as is understood from the mashal of the wick and the oil, that makes the light much greater than on just a wick on its own. That the main concept of the purity of the light and its brightness and how much light it is, and how far it goes, this comes from this is all coming from the oil, which is not the case just the wick on its own. And the reason for this is as explained in another place, that the emotions of the divine soul, that they're what's called the good inclination. They are the emotions that are drawn from the intellect, that in accordance with the level of understanding, that's how much the love is going to be. But the meaning to say that it's commensurate, exactly the amount of understanding of the divine soul, that's how much love it will have. But we have a greatness from the animalistic soul of al nefesh bahamis, the animalistic soul, that its life force is from the angels compared to animals of the supernal chariot, that their source is from even higher concept of the animal, the great animal, so to speak, which is higher than the level of Adam. In general, that's compared to Malchus of Atzilus, which is higher than the Adam. That we're talking about the supernal midos that are higher than Chachma. That if Adam is Bechinas Chachma, so what's higher than that is the emotions beyond that. And they are called, this level is called the mountains of darkness, which is a concept of he surrounds himself with darkness, that this is called darkness, and that this level beyond intellect is called darkness because no thought can grasp there at all. But through the idea of the breaking of the vessels, sparks and life force, the malachim called chayos fell down into the supernal chariot. So these sparks fell into the animals of the chariot and also into the animalistic soul of a person. And this is the idea of the physical darkness that's below light, meaning to say that it has a source that's very high. But through changing darkness to light, then you have the idea of is revealed the concept of mountains of darkness, from the great darkness, the supernal darkness. And all that we were talking about, and this is the idea of great love, which is beyond intellect, that's understood, coming from this Torah Chashocha, these mountains of darkness, these emotions beyond intellect. And this is the idea of with all your might. Yisro or and this is the greatness of the light of which is the light of the love of the divine soul, that on its own it's called the mountains of light, lit up mountains, the love of the divine soul on its own, without the, so to speak, oil of the mountains of darkness from the animalistic soul. So with that, though, you can have a great light, much greater than the divine soul on its own. Like it says, by the crossing the sea, that when they were camped, so that you had this cloud and darkness, and that shined, and that was what was shining. That was because of the cloud and the darkness, redorish, that's what also caused the shine. Which is a revelation of the darkness, so that Hashem, so to speak, surrounded himself with. So that should also shine as a light, that the supernal darkness beyond light should shine as well. And so this is a greatness of light, and this is coming from the actual darkness of the animalistic soul, when it's changed to light. And this is why V'ahavta is the gematria of light, 2 times, times 2. Now, just like the light of the divine soul is drawn from the changing darkness of the animalistic soul to light, so too Shlomo said, that there's a greatness of wisdom, the supernal wisdom over foolishness. And so we're talking that from the sichlus, so here we're not just saying that chachma is greater than foolishness. What we're saying is that from the sichlus, from the foolishness, there's a greatness to the chachma. That chachma is the idea of Torah, that Torah comes from wisdom, that through the divine wisdom and clothing itself into physical things, that are physical in a person's thought, in man's thought, that's what's called foolishness. The intellect of man is called foolishness in comparison to the intellect of above. Now it says, wisdoms outside will sing. And it explains in the Zohar Chachmos today that there's 2 wisdoms here, Chachmei Lav and Chachmat Tata, the supernal wisdom and the lower wisdom. Perish Chachma Ila. So what's this supernal wisdom? Who Chakim v'chlo b'chachma, that is a wisdom that is not a knowable wisdom. Just like, for example, the wisdom in the mitzvah of tzitzis above, that the talis, which is it corresponds with the idea of his garment was like white snow, from Daniel, makif el yonasoviv kol almin. So that's a supernal encompassing idea of the divinity that surrounds, so to speak, creation. So that's the makif. So the strings, they are 32 paths of wisdom that are drawn in an inner way, not encompassing. So too you have the idea of the choshen of the Kohen Gadol and the ephod, which is the front, the back, and you have created me back and front. That this idea is drawn through the great kindness of the Kohen Gadol above, the general kindness of Keser. So too you have the idea that a Kodesh Baruch Hu wears tefillin. So we have all these concepts of Chachma Ilah, the idea of wisdom of the mitzvos. So what is the lower wisdom? Who Torah, that the dregs of wisdom above, that's the Torah. That is what is drawn down from above. That's why the 32 strings of the tzitzis and so forth. That is to say that as the chachma comes down, that is that they were enclothed in physical things. So you have the Torah, the mitzvos, as Hashem, so to speak, does them himself above, and the idea of the lights, the supernal lights, that's the wisdom as they are above. Then you have the mitzvos as they are here in this physical world, and that's the mitzvos, the chachmos, as the chachma as that it is below. The chachma tata. And that's where we're going to find him, like it says, I'm going to find you outside, and that's when we'll sing that we're going to have this greatness of the light of the supernal wisdom from a level that's beyond chachma. Like we said here, that it's specifically from the darkness that the light of above shines greater. That is what it means. It's going to sing because anytime you go upwards, it's through song. Like it says, all masters of song go out with song, or actually, or all animals with a chain go out with a chain, but we're Dorish on song. So too, in Torah it says, sing with me at night, Shiur, that the song from the supernal pleasure, from beyond Chachma, and from the level of ayin, is only a glimmer. That is the wisdom, is this glimmer from this higher level. That the yud of Chachma is this tremendous contraction of the light. So we want to reveal what's beyond that. But in order to reveal the pleasure, the essential pleasure, the supernal pleasure within this, the supernal wisdom. So you have to have both wisdoms, also the Chachma Tata, to shine the supernal pleasure from beyond the Chachma, the Tzimtzum of the Yud. And this is why it says, sing with me, Shiraksi v'shiro kri. It says in the feminine form song, but we read it in the masculine form. Shiro. Hainu shiro shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mamash. That is the song of the Holy One, blessed be He Himself. Which is like it says that the Torah was by Him a pleasure, which is the idea of the source of pleasures. So we're talking about the source of the Torah beyond wisdom, and this is the idea of the musical notes of the Torah, Zarka and Segel and so forth, that they are beyond the letters and the wisdom that's enclosed in them. That's the Shira, the song. Shira Lashon Nekeva, and Shira is the feminine as it's written in the way it's in the form it's written. Lashon Nekeva, and that's because Chachma is the beginning. Beishis is feminine. Because it's receiving from beyond, from the Shira, and therefore it's Shira. The Chachma itself is Shira. Chachmos b'chutz tarona. That you have this wisdom that's singing. And how is it singing? Because you also have what's drawn from beyond it, from the supernal pleasure beyond Chachma. And so then you have the Shira and the Shira together. And when you have the elevation with wisdom to have the revelation of the supernal pleasure, so that's the masculine, his song. And this is what it means. They will sing. And this happens through the wisdom, the enclothement of the wisdom outside specifically, meaning to say into the Chochmah Tata. V'zeu b'layla shira, and this is what it means. That in the night you will shiro, and then the night you'll sing. Layla hainu choshech. That night is darkness. Va'idei shenislab Hatorah b'olam hazeh b'seichel enushi, and through the Torah being enclosed in human intellect, shu choshech v'nikra sichlus l'gabi chachmas adam, which is darkness, and it's called foolishness in comparison to the wisdom of a person, or the wisdom of the Torah above. Now, when a person's own intellect is nullified to the wisdom of the Torah, this draws down the song of the Torah. And this is, therefore, it's brought in Zohar and Beshalach and in other good places, that the Holy One, blessed be He, listens to the voice of those who are studying Torah Chulu, and the praises that are coming from this world, that are from, so to speak, far away. This is a pleasure to the Holy One, blessed be He, more than all. Because the Torah that comes up from this world, more than how the Torah is above, like we said before, for the reason we said before, that the greatness of the supernal wisdom is that it'll have a revelation of the song of the Holy One, blessed be He, who it happens specifically to purifying the foolishness of man and the darkness, and then from that darkness is drawn down from the higher darkness, the Torah Cheshocha, like he said, the mountains of darkness, into the Chochmah. And look, in the Idra Rabbah, it explains the idea of wisdoms outside, because the dregs of wisdom, the lowest levels of wisdom from above are Torah. What is this idea? It's the concept of the enclothement of Hashem's wisdom in the six sides of the emotions, Shem Amidus Kasher Pasul Hula, which are this is kosher and that's pasul and so forth, just like Chesed Gvura and so forth. And through the Chachma being enclosed in the Midos, then you draw down from the hidden wisdom, Shebotaino Elyon, which is that enclosed in the hidden wisdom of Keser. You have the supernal pleasure that's specifically from the Chachma going down. Then you draw down from what's higher, that this revelation would not be in the supernal wisdom on its own, that it receives only from Mazla, from the notes of Inake, and not from what's higher, from the Mochus Nima itself. But in order to draw down from Mochus Nima itself, he has to go down into the Midos. And this is the concept of the four houses of the Tefillin. Gimel, Mochin, Chabad, Hamislabishim, Bemidos, which are the three intellect, the three levels of the intellect of Chachma Bina Das that are enclosed into the emotions, and the idea of the hidden intellect. Look over there. So, and this is the idea of, and I saw that just like there's a greatness of love, of the light of love in the emotions of the soul from the darkness of the bad inclination, that to this you reach the level of with all your might, which is the mountains of darkness, which is revelation of the emotions of the Ratzon of Keser, which are Chesed Gvura Tiferes of Arichanpin. You're going to have this revelation of emotions from above, into which are above the supernal wisdom. That's the idea of Bechol Meodecha. We're talking about emotions that are beyond wisdom. That's why it's Chesed Gvura Tiferes. So too, there's a greatness to the wisdom from the purification of the foolishness. So too, you also draw down a higher level of wisdom. It's not just that you get a better emotions, but also the wisdom itself is changed, that you draw down from the hidden wisdom. And this is the concept of the musical notes of the Torah, or the hidden reasons of the Torah. And this is what it means, that the candle is a mitzvah and the Torah is light. That the mitzvah is the wick Torah that grasps the light of the Torah. And the oil, that's the idea of the human intellect, that's included in the light. That you're changing the human intellect as well to be part of the light. And now the main light is from the oil, dafka, specifically. So to the greatness of the wisdom, which is Torah, which is called light, so too the wisdom on its own, salma v'levush, is only called a garment and a cloak. That's why it says he wears light like a cloak. That just like the cloak, he also wears the light, that the cloak is the wisdom itself. And just like he wears that wisdom, he also wears the light, which is higher than that. And this greatness of the wisdom, how do you get the great wisdom? That's through the foolishness, which is the oil, which is burnt up into the light. And from this is the main shining of the light, that is specifically through the burning of the oil, that you have the greatest level of wisdom, and this is the purification of the human intellect, when it is nullified and included within the wisdom of the Torah. And how is this? That is when a person studies Torah in a way of nullification, in a state of the words that I have placed in your mouth, that just like by Matan Torah was given with trembling and so forth, so too you study Torah with a trembling and recognition that this is Hashem's Torah. But somebody who studies Torah and they feel themselves as an existence, that means that the oil, which is the human intellect that feels itself to be something on its own, so it's not being included in the light, it's not burning up into the light, so that means to say that the light is not shining. That a person makes from his own intellect some kind of something that's important. And on this our sages said, that a person who only says, I only have Torah, without nullification of the mitzvos and so forth, rather it should be like the Magid told the Beis Yosef, I am the Mishnah that is speaking in your mouth, that it's Hashem's Torah, not our own intellect. Rather, Ani Mishnah hamidaberes beficha.